Alrighty, we gotta talk about Biden and TikTok, because, like, everybody's going to be talking about this for at least the next 9 months until the buyout happens. But, alright, let's go ahead and see what is going on here. But first, let's take a look at the fan art section. This one is from Fluffer Bakura, and no context here, but I think it's a repost from the previous server. Anyways, looks wonderful. Thank you very much for the fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at this. Congress passed a bill that could ban TikTok. Now comes the hard part, telling New York Times to stop spamming me. That's the hard part. A bill that would force the sale of TikTok by its Chinese owner, ByteDance, or ban it outright, was passed by the Senate on Tuesday and signed into law by President Biden. Now the process is likely to get even more complicated. Congress passed the measure, citing a national security concern because TikTok's Chinese ties. Both lawmakers and security experts have said there are risks that the Chinese government could lean on ByteDance for access to sensitive data belonging to its 170 million US users to spread propaganda. Oh, boy. So, before we go further with this, let's go ahead and talk about something. So, I've heard people say, oh, they're getting rid of TikTok because information spreads faster on TikTok than anywhere else. And that's only kind of true. That's only kind of true. Information spreads just as fast on TikTok as it spreads on Twitter, as it spreads on YouTube Shorts, though YouTube Shorts only exists because of TikTok, as it spreads on Instagram Reels, as it spreads on Facebook. Information spreads as fast on social media as anywhere else. That's the most important part of that. So people who are defending TikTok and going like, no, the giant mega corporation needs me to defend their predatory short form content because information spreads faster on that, and that's where real news comes from. So there's a couple issues there. One, real news. No, information that comes on TikTok is unfiltered news, and unfiltered news is just as dangerous as censored news, because unfiltered news can be anything. You can find anyone on any side of TikTok lying about anything, and, well, it came up in your TikToks, so I guess that the algorithm fed it to you, and now you've got that information. So a lot of people have tried saying that TikTok shouldn't be banned because a lot of pro-Palestinian stuff has been filtered through there, and therefore that is evidence that TikTok is a net good. But there's also on TikTok the entire spiel of the IDF using its female people. I don't want to say actual, like, soldiers, because there's no way to know if it's actual soldiers, but, like, the IDF has been using just, like, sexy women to try to recruit people into the IDF on TikTok. That's a thing that's been happening too. So, like, if we're going to talk about the different ways in which you can influence public opinion with TikTok, then we need to talk about all of the ways that that information gets filtered through TikTok. If one is true, the other is also true. But we'll continue here. I just wanted to go ahead and throw that out real quick, and we've got something else to talk about as well here in a minute, but let's continue the article. The law would allow TikTok to continue to operate in the US if ByteDance sold it within 270 days, or about 9 months. The time frame the president could extend to a year. The measure is likely to face legal challenges, as well as possible resistance from Beijing, which could block the sale or export of the technology. It's also unclear who has the resources to buy TikTok, since it will carry a hefty price tag. The issue could take months or even years to settle, during which the app would probably continue to function for US customers. Anupam Shander says that it's going to be a royal mess. TikTok pledged to challenge the law, saying, rest assured, we aren't going anywhere. Its chief executive, Shoutout, said in a video posted to the platform, we are confident and we will keep fighting for your rights in courts. Here's what to expect next. TikTok is likely to start by challenging the measure in the courts, saying, I think that that's the one certainty. There will be litigation, blah, blah, blah. I'm not really worried about the rest of this stuff here because, and this says a small buyer pool here. I'm going to go ahead and make just two predictions. Prediction one, a United States-based company that is also heavily linked to China, say something owned primarily by Tencent, or that Tencent has shares in, will probably end up being what buys TikTok. Because they would be the people that have the resources to buy TikTok, and it would be a way for China to basically go, oh, we still have all the access to the data for this. We still have full access to everything we need for this to work. That would be one of my predictions. The other prediction is that the legal battle ends up happening and then TikTok ends up winning. This one's probably a little less likely, but if TikTok ends up winning, then everybody would end up going, ah, yes, this is a free speech day, or some shit like that. Now, I've already kind of showed my hand. I hate short-form content. I do. I watch it, but I think that short-form content is, one, very, very predatory. The algorithm feeding you everything, as opposed to you having a suggested feed where you can select things from, tends to have a very, very large influence on the type of content that people end up watching, and that really, really bugs me. It's a problem that YouTube has, it's a problem that TikTok has, it's a problem Reels has. All of these short-form video content producers have this exact issue. And this didn't used to be the biggest issue back in, say, the days of Vine with the 7-second videos, because during that time, you had enough time to get like an edgy joke out and that was it. Now, you can give full-on misinformation in the 1 to 3 minutes you can have on TikTok, actually, it's more than that now. YouTube, it's up to, 60 seconds, but you can get out a ton of misinfo in that amount of time, and I'll speak about this from a few angles. So the one is the information angle. There's just as much good information as there is bad information through TikTok, and because people are basically blindly running through TikTok, it's very hard to figure out which information is one or the other. And because you tend to watch a TikTok and then flick to the next one, flick to the next one, flick to the next one, you tend to not do a lot of fact-checking on that stuff. You tend to find it and then ask somebody, as has happened to me, ask somebody who might know more about it or otherwise just internalize that information. It's a very easy way for propaganda machines to get a bunch of bunk information in your ear. Now, on the side of a content creator, however, there's another thing that has to be considered. Some content creators can't fucking stand making short-form content. And especially with the YouTube algorithm, there was a time, still is a time right now, where users are heavily incentivized to make short-form content because that benefits the platform, because YouTube wants to compete with TikTok as much as it can. This is why YouTube ended up buying Vine to crush Vine, so they didn't have to compete with them anymore. That's why it got bought and then basically destroyed. And then, of course, Musical.ly got turned into TikTok, and now here we are dealing with the same thing again, only slightly different. Melody says, how is that different from Facebook, though? So, I'm not saying it is different from Facebook, Twitter, etc. I'm saying that short-form content, as it is made, is a problem on every platform. TikTok just happens to be the most prevalent version of this. TikTok also happened to pioneer the video version of this short-form content, the way that we understand it now. Vine may have been the start of it, but TikTok is definitely, I don't even want to say its final form, but it's the current form of that. This is what the current zeitgeist of the internet has right now. So I have problems with short-form content as piloted by TikTok. Now, there is a conversation to be had about if TikTok never existed, would YouTube Shorts have never existed? If YouTube Shorts didn't exist, then maybe we wouldn't be having this problem for creators either. This problem exists on all fronts. But outside of the content creator doesn't want to make content for this thing because it's stupid and problematic and dumb, which is why the only time you've seen any of that short-form content hop up on my channel, it's either been another editor taking care of it or like a curator taking care of it. Either way, the only times that I feel like doing any type of short form is when I feel like I'm basically locked in a corner and have no other method of taking care of it. But there's another side of this that has to be considered as well, the actual safety side of TikTok. I'm going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag right now. most of my problems with TikTok aren't just the fact that I think that the video format is stupid and problematic. I also think that TikTok itself is spyware. And I don't think that, I know that. Because let's talk about historic precedent and what China's already done with TikTok. If you want to defend TikTok, you're stupid and dumb and wrong, and here's why. Chinese Communist Party accessed Hong Kong protesters' TikTok data. Oh boy. A former executive at TikTok's parent company ByteDance has alleged that the Chinese Communist Party accessed user data from the social video app belonging to Hong Kong protesters and civil rights activists. Yinto Yu, a former head of engineering at ByteDance United States operation, claimed in a legal filing that a committee of Communist Party members accessed TikTok data that includes the user's network information, SIM card identification, and IP address in a bid to identify the individuals and their locations. I'm going to pause right there to address something that Vi said here. YouTube is also spyware, just saying, so is Twitch. So, you are correct that there is personal data on each and every one of these. However, there is a difference here. So, in the United States, there is a separation between the government and private organizations. Whether that is a good or bad thing, that's not the conversation to be had right now. The fact that that separation is there means that when your information is subpoenaed, a organization is allowed to reject the subpoena here in the United States. They're allowed to say, no, we are not going to give our user data to you. That can't happen in China, however. In China, they are a state capitalist society, which means that every single company is part-owned or full-owned by the government itself. There is no moment where the government can go, hey, we're going to access this information, and the organization goes, no. That's not a thing that can happen in China. In America, that can happen. In China right now, the way things are, no, that can't happen. Your information is gone. So TikTok is owned by a citizen in Singapore, except the company is based in China, and the company that owns it is part of a... I'm telling you true information, Vi. I don't know what you're trying to do. Do you think that TikTok is a good thing? Like a net good? Because I'm sorry, it's not. I apologize, but it's not. And again, I'm not lying, because we have historic precedent here about exactly what the Chinese Communist Party has done utilizing TikTok. I'm sorry, but facts are not on the side of TikTok right now. They simply are not. Former lead head of engineering at ByteDance U.S. operations claims in a legal filing that a committee of Communist Party members accessed TikTok data that include the user's network information, SIM card information, IP addresses, in a bid to identify individuals and their locations. The claims, in a wrongful dismissal lawsuit brought by you in California, reported by the Wall Street Journal, also allege that the party accessed TikTok users' communications, monitored Hong Kong users who uploaded protest-related content, and that Beijing-based ByteDance maintained a backdoor channel for the CCP to access any U.S. user data. You alleges that the filing that the members of the Communist Party inside ByteDance had access to Super User Credential, which was also called God Credential, which allowed them to view all data collected by ByteDance. So what I'm saying is, if we have a country that, unfortunately, like the United States, is known for a lot of human rights violations, Uyghur genocide being one of them, do you necessarily want that country's government to have access to all of your information all the time? I would say no. I would say no. Everything you're saying about TikTok is also done by Google and Twitch, which is what I'm saying. Okay, cool. You're right. And I'm saying that even though that is bad and that is true, the difference here is that the government does not have, as far as we know, outside of certain situations with, like, the Patriot Act, does not have direct access to that information. They have to request that information, and that information can be denied. That is not the case for the CCP. We have more protections as United States citizens. The CCP does not grant those protections. Vi says, no, the difference here is you make money off those platforms. I literally just said they're bad too, which is why you don't attack Google and Twitch in the same way. Is that what you're accusing me of? The fact that I make my livelihood off of these is why I'm not attacking them? Chaos Tomato Blast says, what is the CCP? CCP is the Chinese Communist Party. Vi says you have a bias here. Vi, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor and shut the fuck up. I have criticized YouTube in the past. I have criticized Twitch in the past. Right now, the conversation is about TikTok. I have issues with TikTok as well. Just like I literally pointed out, I have issues with YouTube trying to get the exact same short form stuff out there as well. Said, and your arguments don't do anything to make TikTok better. Yeah, I'm just... If the conversation is about TikTok, you're literally doing the et tu over and over again. Twitch, YouTube, TikTok are all bad. TikTok's just the worst with data privacy. Okay, sure thing, hypocrite. Are you okay? You seemed like you were perfectly reasonable the last few times you've been on the stream, and yet now that I'm criticizing TikTok, now suddenly you're being an ass shit? Are you okay? Do you need, like, a friend? Do you need to go touch grass? Like, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. So don't you have multiple vids criticizing Twitch and YouTube? Yeah. Midnighter says, uh-oh, I smell tensions. I don't want to use a ban hammer because somebody's being an ass shit, because they're not being a bigot or anything, but I also don't feel like fighting with an ass shit. Again, hey, if you want me to go ahead and say it right now, I can. YouTube is a fucking predatory place as well, for all the same reasons. I literally pointed out that they bought a company solely to crush it, which is something that I don't think is a good idea either, when they decided to buy Vine, which I even said as well. God, it's almost like I addressed this earlier in the video. I said that Vine was a less predatory version of this because of the way that Vine worked. The snippets were harder to get the same amount of misinformation out there as short-form content does. I even pointed out that short-form content is problematic on Twitch and on YouTube. It's not even on Twitch, because Twitch doesn't really have short-form content outside of clips, but it's problematic on Twitter, it's problematic on Facebook, it's problematic everywhere. I literally said the defining difference between these is with user data and with historic precedent. The defining difference between all of these is the fact that the Chinese Communist Party, they're not even really communist, it's just the fucking name of the place. The Democratic People's Republic of North Korea is also not democratic. But my point is, said I'm not staying short-form content only. I don't care what you're saying anymore. You've not given me a reason to care. And I'm going to start ignoring you now. My apologies if that causes inconvenience with you. Said now China has to pay for some information just like every other country does. They have to go to Google and their own TikTok, and they lost and asked for the information by money. See, I think that having to pay for the information is also a problem. Information brokers having access to this info is also an issue. Discord is having a huge problem with this too. A bunch of information on Discord got leaked. Vi says, I'm leaving, thanks for attacking me. You fucking started it. Go be a crybaby elsewhere. I know. You don't get to do the whole, like, I aimed a gun at you. Why are you attacking me? Jesus Christ. Go be a professional victim somewhere elsewhere. Thank you, and bye. Jesus fucking balls. I don't know how many times I have to explain my problems with all of these mega corporations. I don't know. And then telling me that I don't actually criticize these ones when I do. I've literally had a video going over the different ways in which the Twitch TOS change affect content creators negatively. But that's okay. That's okay. Again, I hope you enjoyed having more attention than anybody else in your life has given you. Congratulations. Continuing on with what's going on here, and as I pointed out, my issue is that TikTok grabs user data and historically has used that user data when the Hong Kong protests were happening. When Britain lost its... I mean, it wasn't really lost. It was more like their deed ran out. When their deed over Hong Kong ran out, and Hong Kong was trying to argue that they should maintain being their own separate state within China as opposed to being subsumed into China itself, when those protests were happening, do you remember when Blizzard got in hot water because one of the Hearthstone players said free Hong Kong, or, you know, and had a fucking mask on, and then suddenly Blizzard took down the stream and tried to take down all the content with that particular creator, with that particular professional. It's almost like this has been a running problem with Chinese imperialism. But, you know, anywho, Yu alleges in the filing that members of the CCP committee inside ByteDance had access to super user credentials. We already went over that. The filing adds that when Yu was at ByteDance between August 2017 and November 2018, TikTok stored all of users' direct messages, search histories, and content viewed by users. ByteDance pulled the social video app from Hong Kong in 2020, and concerns over national security law that gave China enhanced powers in the city. TikTok's chief executive, Shozi Chu, I'm probably saying that wrong, appeared at a U.S. congressional hearing in March and denied that the CCP had accessed that user data. And I would say that is probably a lie. He said, let me state this unequivocally, ByteDance is not an agent of China or any other country. Again, if ByteDance has any ownership in China, they, like, legally, they don't have that ability. It's just like with Tencent. If Tencent owns something, then China, by proxy, owns that thing as well, because that's how the economy works in China. There is not full privatization of businesses there. Businesses are part and parcel part of the government as well. Again, they are a state capitalist society. That's what that means. Chaos says, is Blizzard the company that created God of War? No. Blizzard is World of Warcraft. Blizzard is Diablo. Blizzard is StarCraft. And now it's Activision Blizzard, so Call of Duty as well, but that's not the Blizzard half of that. That's just the merger that happened there. Oh, of course, I got muted by my own thing. They said, we plan to vigorously oppose what we believe are baseless claims and allegations on this complaint. Mr. Yu worked for ByteDance for less than a year, and his employment ended in July 2018. During his brief time at the company, he worked on an app called Flipagram, which was discontinued years ago for business reasons. None of that seems to discredit what he said. That seems to basically be a way of trying to downplay any power that he had in the company, any influence. Here's the thing. If you're working at a company and you're an intern at that company, that is enough, generally, for you to get an idea of a lot of the internals that are going on at that company. You're not going to have access to all the back-end data. You're not going to have access to everything. But a lot of things like company culture, even the starting intern will start to get an idea of after a few weeks, after people start letting their guard down and stop pretending like it's the best place to work in the entire world. But, anywho, that's my take here. Short-form content, problematic, addictive, hard to fact-check, but people love it anyway. Everybody does. And also, on top of that, I do think that the security concern is a big concern. Now, I also think that what's probably going to happen here in 9 months is that TikTok is going to be bought by a United States-based organization that is also partly owned by the CCP, because Tencent already owns a lot of stuff that started out in America anyway. I don't see why something like that wouldn't happen again, so they can maintain that super user backdoor access. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability that Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Nixie-chan, the Oberon team, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.